Yeah, it's your boy Crypto Blood, and welcome to another Kicking It session. Today I've got a double header. I've never done this before. I had some issues. We've been spending like 3 hours before trying to record this one and get it set up. Crypto Beadles, my man Rice Crypto. What's good, brothers? How are you this morning?
Doing great, bro.
I'm doing
great.
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. So, just saying, I appreciate the opportunity to have a great conversation with two of my homies.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad to have you guys on. We were talking via DM about various things. I know me and Beadles were going head to head on the whole virus thing, but one topic that I think we all could agree on is this crypto industry and how it's changed and how we need to really educate and highlight what's going on behind the scenes, man. And I wanted to get both of you guys on because you guys have some very, I wouldn't say controversial, I guess they're controversial, but kind of not running with the herd type of mentality. So I always love hearing that. Start with you, Beadles. What's going on with Bitcoin? I was on your show and you were kind of, it seems like you may be concerned about where we're going with Bitcoin, the Bitcoin that everyone thinks is the real Bitcoin. Talk to me about that.
Well, I mean, there is only one real Bitcoin, and that's the one that Satoshi Nakamoto created and released, January 4th of 2009. So that is the real Bitcoin for sure. What my concerns are, and what a lot of people, don't like to, I guess it's one of those inconvenient truths, right, is the people that were initially behind Bitcoin. There's some of them that are still there, but for the most part, the people that really helped Bitcoin get to where it's at and get at the notoriety and the use case and get just the overall awareness for it, they're not there anymore. So like, If you look at Satoshi Nakamoto, he gave the keys to Bitcoin basically to Gavin Andresen. Gavin Andresen got kicked out of Bitcoin Core by the Bitcoin Core developers, right? Which seems very odd because Satoshi turned it over to Gavin, and then Gavin got kicked out of Bitcoin, and Gavin went to Bitcoin Cash and said, "This is a Bitcoin that I was, tasked with, creating basically, or started working with. This is like basically kind of the way he said it is, this is how Bitcoin's supposed to be." So he went over to the Bitcoin Cash side of things. And then if you look at the people that are actually working on Bitcoin, a lot of people don't understand that there's a core dev team that's basically responsible for maintaining the Bitcoin code structure, architecture, all that kind of stuff, keeping it running. And these people aren't paid, to do this. So they do it either out of just selflessness, just trying to help, their fellow man, or they have ginormous bags of Bitcoin and they're doing it to basically ensure that their bags end up being worth more in the future, or at least not going to zero, right? So you have these core devs that are working on Bitcoin. Now, one could argue that Bitcoin works just as it is, so just leave it alone, do the maintenance that needs to be done every once in a while, don't break it, because there's so many people out there that are, in the financial industries, for instance, they're setting up these ETFs and all types of financial instruments that rely on Bitcoin being stable, being secure, not going down, not breaking, not having, some kind of inflation bug where there could be billions of them, or they need it to be stable and they need it to work. And so one could argue that, like I said in a video, I don't know, months, a year ago, leave Bitcoin alone, right? Just leave it alone. It doesn't have to be everything for everyone. It works. Everybody's decided it's a store of value, so leave it as a store of value. If you want something that's cheap and fast and stable, use stable coins for digital currencies. That way, it's a true peer-to-peer digital you can use things like that, stable coins, stable tokens. But what you see is the core team that most of the core team, for the most part, that's working on Bitcoin, they have their other endeavors. A lot of people have heard of like Blockstream. That started around like 2014 by a lot of the core devs, because this goes back to how you're not really compensated to work on the Bitcoin blockchain. So what these people did is they came up with services, so to speak, to try to fix some of the issues with Bitcoin, which would be, maybe it's a little slow, maybe it's a little bit, it's expensive to send money sometimes. So they try to create these plugins, so to speak, in their own business where they actually would make money. And then they end up becoming this third party, the thing that Satoshi Nakamoto wanted to stay away from. He always wanted it peer-to-peer. But when you get things like, Liquid, and you get things like Blockstream Green, and you get things like Blockstream Satellite, Lightning Network, and Elements, and all these different things that Blockstream's doing, it basically puts them in the middle between the two peers. So no longer would it be peer-to-peer. You would have to use some of this service, or at least what they're doing is you would pay this service a fee to, fix some of the scaling issues or speed issues with Bitcoin. And so, I understand people need to make money, and I'm not saying, that that's a bad thing, but when this is the core team that's tasked with working on Bitcoin and they're doing these other things, that really doesn't help Bitcoin scale. So I just said, leave Bitcoin alone. Let it just be digital gold. Everybody's kind of accepted it as that, and start using stable coins and stable tokens, things like that you don't have to worry about volatility. Merchants don't have to worry about their money being worth less. Because like with Bitcoin, we've seen if people paid $20,000 for it, and right now it's under $9,000, you lost $11,000. And you get these people, and I think it's some of the dumbest stuff I've ever heard in my life. They say one Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin. And that's like somebody saying it's like somebody saying like the dumbest thing ever.
One car is worth one car. Like it's gotta be.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like Jimmy Song,
I don't agree with that moniker that I've heard. Yeah,
it makes no sense. How do you explain to your wife you just lost $11,000? Well, babe, one Bitcoin's worth one Bitcoin. It's like, no, it's $11,000 less now, and I can't pay people. You know what I mean? I don't get the same amount of products or services because it's worth $11,000 less. So people that do that kind of stuff, it's just kind of this mentality that they have, and they need to be a little bit more open-minded and just face the facts that it's worth $11,000 less, right? So one Bitcoin is worth one Bitcoin, I guess, but it's worth $11,000 less. So they need to have different talking points and just realize that people care about money. People care about speculation. That's why they're in there.
What do you say about the fact that we can't please them all, right? Everyone didn't get in at 20,000. A lot of people, like I'm sure yourself, like myself, got in well below $1,000. So,
well, that's educating yourself, man. That's a completely different subject as far as like people, when people decide to buy in, if people decide to take advantage of buying in on the hype and they lose out. Unfortunately, that's people not taking the time to educate themselves. Now, a lot of what Beadles had to say about Bitcoin, I would agree with. But I also look at it as keeping Bitcoin limited on purpose so that you can profit off these solutions.
That's what I want to hear. Yeah. I want to hear more about ultimately.
That, right? And see, I really feel like, with that Bitcoin wasn't intended to be where it's at right now. And I don't like the idea that we have to accept it as being a store of value, because, you do have two different camps that argue whether or not Bitcoin is a store of value or whether it's a peer-to-peer cash system. And the way that it's set up right now, it's not very effective to be a peer-to-peer cash system. And I'm not here, just like Beadles, to say that anything else is replacing Bitcoin or is Bitcoin, because what BTC is what Satoshi Nakamoto created. But is it right now what he envisioned it to be? And I don't believe that would be the case.
If you look at his earlier writings, if you look at his earlier writings, he says, once the technology reaches up and the desire and the need and you have the usage there, increase the block size. He said to do it. But nobody else would do it because that interferes with the third-party plugin that goes in the middle that makes the money, right? So
it takes away their profit.
So, but my question then is, guys, if that's the case, then is the Bitcoin that we're all calling Bitcoin really the real Bitcoin? Is that not the intended use case for what Satoshi Nakamoto wrote in his white paper? I don't think it is.
Creators come up with things, they make things, and sometimes the customers, the world, end up using it unintended to what the creator actually devised or designed or created. And so, there's only one Bitcoin. Don't let anybody fool you and say, Bitcoin Cash is really Bitcoin. It's not. It's just some of the people behind Bitcoin Cash were the original people behind Bitcoin. So there's value there, but it is not Bitcoin. Anybody that says Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin is just full of crap. It's not. Bitcoin Cash works great. It has a lot of the same people behind the original Bitcoin, but make no mistake, there's only one Bitcoin. And people have just started using it as a store of value. And let's face it, most people...
Hold on. So you're saying that people are using it for a store of value, but it was kind of forced on them to use it as a store of value.
Sure. Yeah, again, it's not as the creator designed. The creator designed it as, something that would be used as, you know, freedom cash. You could take it anywhere, use it for
Yeah,
anything,
that's what it
anytime,
was when I
peer to
was
peer.
getting into it.
You can still
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, I mean, you can still do that with it. So don't think for a second it still can't be used that way. But people aren't using it that way for the most part. Most
Right.
people in crypto are solely using Bitcoin as a store of value, as digital gold, and that's fine. You know, I, as a merchant, I wouldn't, you know, I would much rather be paid in stable coins and stable tokens than things like Bitcoin, because we have
Yeah.
payroll, we have fixed
Yep.
costs. And
Yep.
so if Bitcoin drops 50% at night, I wake up and I got to make payroll, you know, that gets rolled real quick and it's unsustainable.
It's
But
not a
with,
currency at that point. It's not money at that point. Because
yeah, I mean,
money is
people
supposed
don't
to be
use gold.
a stable medium of exchange, right?
Yeah, yeah, for
Rice,
the
what?
most part. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Rice,
people
what do you
say,
have to
"Oh
say about
yeah,
that?
Well,
Bitcoin will finally get there one day when we get enough people using." It's like, yeah, but how many dead bodies along the way? You know what I mean? How many people are going to get wrecked? You know, waiting for it to finally stable out one day, and then once it does, you know, I mean, it's going to be about as sexy as gold, right? You know, it's going to be a hedge.
Rice, what do you have
no,
to
I
say about
definitely
that?
agree. Well, I wanted to kind of touch back on something that Beadles was saying about Bitcoin Cash, because, you know, when I first got involved in cryptocurrency, which was early 2017, it wasn't, you know, but maybe 6 months later that we ended up seeing this hard fork take place and Bitcoin Cash being created. And I've had the opportunity to talk to Roger Ver and get his take on it, but I've never really been able to figure out like who initiated the whole thing. And I never saw anything about Gavin Andresen being involved in Bitcoin Cash. I didn't know that he was involved. So, I mean, I find that to be very interesting. But, you know, when a lot of people don't know the history, and it is important to note that when the keys of Bitcoin were passed on per se to Gavin Andresen, and then he
And
was
Gavin
ultimately
endorsed, yeah, he endorsed Bitcoin Cash. You can find his tweet out there if you just type in Gavin Andresen, you know, plus, you know, BCH endorsement. You know,
but it
that's
was
where
just
he got.
he wasn't really necessarily getting involved or anything like that, correct?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how much he is a part of it. I just know that he endorsed it and said, "This is what I started. You know, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is like how it's
Okay.
supposed to be." That type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and then even Roger Ver. I mean, a lot of people thought maybe he had something to do with it, but he just kind of jumped ship as well, because he was really pushing for that block size to be increased. And I think that once he realized that Bitcoin Core was really putting an end to that, you know, he decided to go ahead and go to the Bitcoin Cash camp. And the other thing I wanted to note is, you know, since I've got involved in the space, that's when we had SegWit implemented on Bitcoin, which up until now, if I'm not mistaken, are really the only improvements that have been made to Bitcoin. And now here we are 3 years later, and they're talking about adding some new proposals. But, you know, I mean, I think that there should be a little bit more faster development, but then you have that conundrum of who pays the developers. And then I understand why Blockstream is doing it. It doesn't make it right. And then when you look at all the people who invested into Blockstream, and you look at all that's a completely different topic in and of itself. Because
No, let's talk about that,
well,
because I mean,
I'm
is
having
Bitcoin being hijacked?
I'm having a lot of hatred, man, and a lot of disdain towards our community supporting the older financial systems to continue to be viable and alive. You know, you got your Rockefellers, those kind of people are involved. People who are involved in the Bilderberg Group are investors into the Blockstream. I'm looking at Consensus, which is, you know, Joe Lubin's thing, working on white papers for CBDCs. You know, it's really starting to make me sick as far as Chainlink trying to create smart contract replacements for the Swiss system, keeping the Swiss system relevant. You know, I'm not really a big fan. I thought we were trying to get away from the central banking system, and it seems like all the people who have any power in this space, all they're doing is succumbing to the traditional financial system and just trying to find ways to keep it viable so that they can join that big club. It's just my point of view with it.
No, and I totally agree with you, and I think that's the direction we're going. I don't like that direction at all, and I think people are cowardice for not speaking up about it, and I really respect you for doing that. How do we change that, Rice? How do we change that direction that we're going in? And I think it kind of started, to be honest with you, in 2017. That's when, at least when I noticed it. 16, 17, into 16 and 17 is when I started really noticing the change.
The best thing about this whole industry, man, is everything is open source.
Sure.
So I mean, and the important thing is, and this goes down to a philosophical thing, but it could be interjected into what we're doing. We as individuals have power, and I've been trying to like remind people of that, because a lot of people have forgotten or just have been conditioned to think that they can't make a difference. But we as individuals, we have power. We can make a positive impact, and we can make a difference. And we as a collective, being not divided, standing together. You know, if we stood together against all these things that we thought were bad in the world, right now we're at a position where we're talking about when the situations that we're dealing with happen to like kind of dissipate, that things aren't going to be the same as they were before, that there's going to be a new normal. Well, we have the power to shape what that new normal can be. You know, we can stand up against our governments and against central banks if the people were to actually stand up. So with that being said, if we had that power, we could just take that open source technology and literally just fork codes and just keep creating a new token that we give value to that the rest of the system doesn't recognize. So it's just a matter of people taking the power back and realizing that people individually have power, and together we have that much greater power.
Beadles, are you that optimistic about that?
No, not at all, man. Basically, what Rice is saying is for businesses and for people all around the world to stop caring about money and start caring about the greater good of everyone. That to me, I see people, they'll stand up when it affects their wallet. The people will stand up when it affects their rights. But this, I mean, when you look at Bitcoin, the way it started, I mean, you had the cyberpunks, you had the initial people that were behind it. Where are these guys at now? You know what I mean? Most of them are using it as digital gold. Look, we know that the banks are always going to be around. You know what I mean? They're always going to be there, and we're always going to be using some type of government controlled money.
I like that you said that on your stream the other day, and I like that, and I agree with you on that, because I don't hear many people in the crypto space saying that. They all think that the banks are going to go away. We're going to get rid of them. This is going to be one, like you said, one Bitcoin is going to be worth one Bitcoin.
I'd like to think that
I come from the business world, and so I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got thousands of employees. Like, okay, guys, hey, I'm going to pay you in this digital funny money, and it may go up, may go down, and some of them may be on board for that. But then when they go to start transacting business on their own or paying for goods and services with it, and they start seeing all the pitfalls, and we just keep telling them, hey, just wait, another 5-10 years, it'll get there. But there's not enough altruistic people in the space that only care about the betterment of humanity to make this really work. Just understand that people care about profits. People do. They simply do. And so, and you need a government. You could have limited government.
That's what I'm saying. Like the way that we look at banking now, is it not possible that the form of banking that we see now can be changed to a more
that's
what beneficial system? I'm not saying that banking will end, but the way that we know banking, the corruptiveness of the banking industry, the debt-based, the fractional reserve banking, the debt-based slavery fiat money system, we can change that, and that could make a better impact on people.
That absolutely. And there is a conspiracy theory out there. There is a movement out there right now where, if you look, basically Donald Trump is running the Federal Reserve. Correct. Currently right now, you can look at it. You can.
No, it's not a conspiracy, Beadles. That's
but I'm not seeing any facts or evidence pointing towards this yet. And
no. You
can find it. Yeah,
there is. So it's so in the CARES Act. Essentially, what happened, Rice, is that now the
Federal
Treasury
Reserve became part of Treasury.
The Treasury is now controlling essentially the Federal Reserve.
But now the Federal Reserve hasn't said a thing about this. Why would the Federal Reserve be quiet about being taken over and infiltrated?
Actually, they actually did go public. One of the Fed chairman, I can't remember if it was from St. Louis or whatnot, basically
Fred
said,
Bullard?
No, basically it was a woman. It basically she said that they essentially work for Steve Mnuchin, and Steve Mnuchin reports to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump currently controls the Federal Reserve. And so the theory is right now that they're printing trillions of dollars and they're putting it on the Fed's books. They're basically loading up all the debt onto the Fed,
those special
purpose vehicles. Yep.
Right, exactly.
Yep, exactly. So they're putting all this debt on the Fed's books, and then supposedly the way it'll work is, if this is true, the Fed will end up going bankrupt. It'll be absorbed into the Treasury. The Treasury gets all the assets.
So that's
all
the part
debt
I don't
goes
agree
on the
with.
Fed. Then you have
Yeah.
a debt jubilee, and everybody's wiped and absolved of all their debt because of the corruptedness of the Federal Reserve since 1913 to now being an legally formed, this private company that everybody thinks is public or part of the government. It's not. So this is the theory that's out there. Whether it happens or not, I have no idea. But they're saying that they're going to bankrupt the Fed. All the assets will transfer to the Treasury. All the debt will stay with the Fed. They'll be in bankruptcy courts because Trump is a master of bankruptcy courts. And so they're saying that, he knows the system better than them. And at the end of this, the people end up having some kind of debt jubilee where their debt is wiped out and they get a new currency, and it's sound money backed by something of value: gold, silver, palladium, real estate, assets of sorts. That's the theory. Whether this plays out, I have no idea. But that's one of the theories that's going on out there right now.
Go ahead, Rice. And I want to jump in.
One of my most important questions that I would ask about this, because I do follow, because like I told you guys, I'm staying open-minded to things. So I do follow this particular movement.
Right.
Let's say that this goes down, as we're saying, and the Federal Reserve, the IRS, and all that kind of stuff happens to be ended, and we go back to sound money. If we go back to sound money that's backed by gold, then what is the purpose of Bitcoin?
What is the purpose of Bitcoin?
Because Bitcoin
it loses its sexiness really quick, right? Right. I mean, it loses its initial sexiness really quick because basically, I bet you Satoshi would celebrate that. I bet you he would. Yeah, and it would still stay. It would still. I mean, there's only 21 million of them, right? Actually, 18 something million of them currently right now. So it would still be just like it'd be like saying, well, what would be the purpose of gold? Well, because it's still an asset, and make no mistake, Bitcoin is an asset. And people are using it as a digital gold. And so even if we had sound money, it would still have value. It would still have a purpose. It would still have a place. Right. It would still be cool, just like owning a block of gold or anything else.
No, and I definitely agree with that. But I kind of feel like it was born from the ashes of that fiat system as a way for us to get away from fiat money. So so we can end fiat money, it kind of defeats the purpose of why Bitcoin was created. But I could see I get what you're saying, and I can see how Satoshi would celebrate something like that. Because
let me just jump in and say I don't. So my thinking behind the Treasury taking over the Fed is out of pure panic and desperation to continue this debt scheme. I don't see it as an exit strategy for Trump to eliminate the Federal Reserve.
And there's a lot of proof of nationalizing right now. There's a lot of evidence of nationalizing. So I mean, but like
I said, it's just a theory going around. So whether
I know,
we'll see what happens.
I'm just saying, we'll see what happens. But
it's wishful thinking too.
It's wishful. I think it is. I think it's wishful thinking. I don't think personally. I don't think Trump is for the people that much.
Well,
I think he's not one of the politicians, that are cut from the cloth of what we normally get. But I wouldn't say he's out to necessarily help the people.
The only thing,
lower interest rates.
Just look at his track record, man. Look at the actions, not the words. So if you
That's
look
what I'm
at
saying, lower interest rates do not help people. Lower interest rates do not help middle class people. They need to be able to earn some interest off their money. They're not in the stock market. Majority of people are not in the stock market, right?
Right, but when you lower the interest rates, it makes money easier for everybody to get it. It makes easier to purchase assets, real estate, vehicles, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just one of the things that he's done. Now, the middle class is going to get hurt worse than anybody if we continue with this lockdown. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they do not justify what's happening right now. And you look across the U.S., you see all the people revolting. You see the CDC that came out on Friday and said basically. And this way, so I'll paraphrase. Let's see here. What did they say on Friday? Basically, they got it all wrong. And so it's nowhere near as bad as they said it was. Where is it?
That was the CDC?
On Friday, yeah. So on Friday, the CDC equated the Wuhan coronavirus to the seasonal flu. The COVID-19 hospitalization rates are similar to those in the 65 and older category during recent high-severity influenza seasons. And the COVID-19 hospitalizations for children 17 and under is much lower than the seasonal flu. And hospitalization rates during recent influenza seasons. The COVID-19 is less dangerous to children than a typical influenza. This was Friday. That came out.
But wait. The operative word there was children. And that's true. We already knew that. We already knew that it wasn't dangerous to children like that.
No, but listen to what it says about the 65 and older. It's the same. It's saying the hospitalization rates are similar to those in the 65 and older category during recent high severity influenza seasons. And then if you look, they've gone and actually lowered the numbers. So there's far fewer deaths than what they were reporting. And if you look at the other article that came out just, let's see here. This one came out on...
There's something going on. I mean, for us to have this lockdown happening and us being able to have this conversation about it, nothing matching up, nothing seeming legit, and then CB living in Michigan dealing with what he's dealing with, there's something happening, and that's where the last thing I'll say about that movement,
it isn't anything happening.
I'm saying something as far as we talked about that movement and we talked about the Federal Reserve thing. The last thing I want to say about that movement is if you look at some of their posts, there is some legitimacy in some of the things that's coming out, and especially recently. I think a lot of this information with General Flynn, I think this is all being kind of pointed out towards. So I mean, there's some sort of corruption happening in our government. There's something happening in addition to this pandemic that we're experiencing.
So Trump is,
and I just don't know what it is. I don't know if we have a
trying to listen. Trump
war
is definitely
between the
trying
world.
to drain the swamp. I don't doubt that without any doubt. I don't doubt that. But the issue is he's draining the swamp for his own, because he's not of that cloth. He's not from the Democrat or the Republican side. He didn't, raise up in the ranks on the political side of things. So yeah, he's draining out the swamp, but I'm not going to sit up here and think he's draining out the swamp to help middle class people, because his monetary or fiscal policy isn't necessarily lining up to do that for middle class America, is all I'm saying.
I guess time will actually be the indicator, and we'll see, who's on the right side of what, and you'll see what governors were doing draconian tactics through the midst of this stuff, and if they get reelected, and you'll see, if Trump actually does help middle class America, because just a couple months ago they were having the best year of their life. So I disagree with what you're saying there, because I believe that actions are a far greater indicator.
But again, Beadles, middle class people don't have stocks, so they're not helping middle class people from the stock market perspective.
But no, that's not true. If you look, most middle class people have 401ks, and what is that tied to? It's tied to the stock market. So if he lets the stock market crash right now, middle class America will lose their entire retirement. They got real estate that's backed by it. You've got all types of different stocks that are all plugged into different ETFs, different retirement vehicles. People miss that point. If he allows the stock market to crash, middle class is completely wiped out. Then you think it's bad right now not having a job, imagine not having a retirement. So everything that they work for their entire lives will be gone. The rich will be okay, and then the poor will be okay, because the poor keep getting like the PPP, they get unemployment, they get stuff like that. The middle class gets wiped out. That's what I really think he's trying to avert. And if you look, this lockdown, I'm just telling you, man, you can't, you can have your own opinion, but you can't have your own facts, right? As the old saying goes.
Let's look at facts. So we got Zero Hedge here. Florida suffers deadliest day yet as the reopening begins. So we're seeing Florida spike deaths.
Who is reporting the numbers? So just to that point, we can say
that, Beadles. We can say that about your numbers.
I'm
just going off of Zero Hedge. Sure. I'm just going off of Zero Hedge. Let's look at this. Florida reports record 72 deadly deaths or daily deaths on Tuesday. Okay, I'm gonna scroll down. And you'll see. What
about too? Like, hasn't Trump just come out recently, and other people, I think Pompeo are saying that it's definitely a man-made virus?
I think it is.
So there's a lot
that would cause a war. Does
it not look like we're in that direction?
I'm very concerned about that.
If they say that it was man-made, it came out of Wuhan, the Chinese released it, knowingly, purposely, whatever, then guess what, guys? We're in a war. It's going to be awful. So I do not believe that they're going to say that. Are we not in a
war, though? Did Donald Trump not say that we already in a war?
No, he didn't.
No, we're not firing missiles and rockets and stuff like that yet. So if that was to come out, we would end up, in a war. And I think that's
a good point, Beadles.
Are they not sending ships over to China right now, though?
Dude, they got ships all over the world, man. They're just shoring things up. But, I'm not saying they're not taking preventive measures, just in case something crazy happens. But if that did come out, there would be an outcry across the world to basically.
Generally, when an economy starts to crash, war is a great answer to try to get your economy back up.
Not this type of war, bro.
Yeah.
This would not be a good war
bad.
for the world, in my
It's all
opinion.
bad. Yeah.
Right, Beatles.
No, it'd be horrible. It'd be the worst
Yeah.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah,
It'd be awful.
wouldn't be. It wouldn't be a good move, Rice, because we haven't taken our mouths off the bottle yet.
No, I'm definitely not saying it would be a good move. It just seems like whenever we have a position like where countries tend to have bad economic problems, war tends to be the answer to get everything back up. I mean, hopefully we aren't going to repeat our mistakes of the past, or if we are in some sort of war, maybe we're going to do it in some sort of ethical manner. I don't know. I mean, it's
sort of pray never comes to that.
But Beatles, I really did want to. There was something that you mentioned, and I don't mean to like completely change it, but I wanted to ask some crypto related questions.
Yeah.
When I first got involved in crypto, one of the coins that I really liked was Litecoin. And I just started getting involved and just started realizing more. I just became less of a fan of what Litecoin is. I still own some Litecoin. I do like Charlie Lee as a person. I do like the ideas that they're implementing Wemble and things like that. But aside from the fact that somebody would just call Litecoin a testnet for Bitcoin, like I'd like to know what your personal issues are with Litecoin.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been very vocal from the beginning. I hate Litecoin. Johnny Kim, I think is a great dude. I love the guy. I think everybody should have a cheerleader like that in your blockchain's corner. Man. But no, I think it's, okay, so it's a test net. Cool, man. So, we have ROPs and, test nets and Ethereum. So go, do something offline, right? And they're not selling those tokens. So if it's just a test net, then why did Charlie sell all of his Litecoin at the top when he was telling people to hodl? Okay, so
no. He told people to sell, Beatles.
So
he did not tell people to hodl. That's where I was like, I can't really fault him because he told everybody to sell. He said it was overvalued, and if you're not willing to hold it till $23, which is where it went, then you shouldn't be in it.
Right.
Right, Rice?
So, no, he did say that. I mean, that was like mid 2017.
Something like that, yeah.
I mean, not mid December 2017, not 2017. It was right before everything started going down.
Mm-hmm.
Right before we hit the peak.
So again, if you're creating a copy of Bitcoin basically and calling it a test net, and then
I don't think they called it that. I think this is what some people refer to it as.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that they would admit, like in any case, that that's what they are. It was supposed to be. I know that Charlie was big on trading gold and silver. He studied gold and silver to a highest degree when he got involved in crypto. The only thing that's weird about me with Charlie Lee is his MIT background and him working for Google.
Why is that weird?
I mean, Google just doesn't seem to be like fans of humanity for one.
That doesn't necessarily mean that because you work for an organization, you
worked for
take
Coinbase
on.
Too, didn't he?
Huh?
Didn't he work for Coinbase too?
He worked for CB. Yep, he worked for Coinbase too. But Rice, that doesn't mean just because you work for an organization, you're now taking on.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, just look at and just putting associations. If you just look at it from an outside perspective, it just something seems kind of weird about all that. When it comes down to it, you as a Google employee can work for Google and develop other products and other ideas on Google's time, and it actually gives Google rights and partial ownership to whatever you're doing. I don't know what the involvement with someone like Google was with Charlie Lee when Charlie Lee started. The ultimate idea of what our central banking and government system would like with the cryptocurrency would be like with the digital dollar, something that's completely trackable and has full surveillance. So if you can work within the system with people who are building code, who are slipping in this kind of stuff into code that we don't know about, I just try to be an open-minded thinker.
Let me ask you this, Rice, because what's your take on them doing the whole Wemble thing? I thought that was a great step in the right direction.
I mentioned that, and I think that's cool. Maybe, and I don't know if this is a Charlie Lee thing but maybe somebody actually wants to do something to try to separate Litecoin from being a Bitcoin testnet coin.
And that would be it, right?
I mean, we definitely I like the Wemble technology. I like the ideas of us having that fungibility, because I see a future where tainted Bitcoins, like your Bitcoins that were used in illegal transactions or something that was flagged by some sort of chain analysis type system, that you're not going to be able to utilize that Bitcoin if you happen to own that dirty money. And I know that there's Bitcoin that's been associated with Ponzi schemes and associated with different things that have been flagged. And how is that going to affect somebody who wants to utilize that when regulation comes? So I think that fungibility, that the dollar in my pocket is the same as a dollar in your pocket, but right now my Bitcoin is different than your Bitcoin because my code is very specific to my Bitcoin, and your code is very specific to your Bitcoin.
Beadles,
and all the past is associated.
What do you
with
think, Beadles? What do you think about Mimblewimble and that integration? Is that would that kind of make you change your mind about Litecoin or no?
No, I could care less. I think you can see they don't have enough developers working on it. They haven't implemented it properly yet. I don't know that it ever will be. Look, it's just a lot of talk. I mean, you don't have the devs working on it. That's pretty apparent. They don't have, the money in the foundation to pay for it. From everything that I've, researched and read about, and I could be wrong about, Lee selling at the top. He might have sold at 3 different points on the way to the top. Mm-hmm. But again, whether you're telling people that or not, I mean, when you got the founder of a company, selling all their stock before the stock crashes, it just doesn't look right, and people do get hurt. And you can say that, oh, he didn't crash it, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. And maybe you're right. Maybe he didn't. But as a business owner, if I was going to sell all the stock in my company and then the next month all my stockholders are hurt, and I told them, hey guys, this might go down. A lot of people, they don't ever want to give price predictions, right? Because they don't want to be stuck in that position to where if I say it's going to go up and it doesn't, you're going to get mad at me. If I say it's going to go down and it goes up, you're going to get mad at me. So people sometimes they don't actually make those statements because they don't want to be liable for any effects. But
so do you have a problem with okay, so is that why Bitcoin has an advantage over other coins, because there isn't a face, right? We can't point to one person.
Yeah, and if you could, I don't think it'd be as successful as it is, because
I agree.
When you have a face to something, people instantly start sizing you up. They want to know what your motives are. If they find some dirt on you, it kills the project. It kills the project, right? So, and Charlie, he may be a nice guy. I really don't know him. I just know that I've never really liked Litecoin. And just my perception of it is when you sell all the stock to your company and just kind of let the company fall where it may, and you see where it's at now, right? It just kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth. And so that's, and the facts may be that he didn't sell at the top, and the facts may be that he told people that, hey, I'm going to sell it all. But regardless, like I said, the taste in my mouth from it is just kind of bad, right? Because it's like, that's your baby, that's your company, right? So, you should see the project through.
Rice, what's this thing about him selling, and not really selling, but transferring the coins to a foundation or something? Did you ever hear anything about that? I'm not.
Yeah, and I can actually get you in touch with this guy, Beadles, if you'd like to. It's a guy named Tim Pichote.
Oh yes, that's what we had on.
He goes by the Liberty Advisor, and he's worked with World Alternative Media and We Are Change with Luke Rudowski. Yeah. He's a financial analyst. Do you know the guy?
I don't know him,
okay,
but I know the people you're talking about.
He himself is a financial analyst, financial advisor, and stuff like that. So he can actually do things for people that we can't do. Sure. And he was talking. He was talking about a way that you could transfer your assets into a foundation, and it's just a big, it's really where you're just transferring ownership, but you really still have ownership.
Yeah, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, take a look at it. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
So he was kind of explaining that, but because I'm not well versed in that particular category, I like economics, but it's not something that I particularly wanted to dig into, how does this work, because it's not something I'm planning on doing. But it makes a lot of sense and I don't think that Litecoin is lacking the funding in their foundation. I think a lot of those assets were transferred to the foundation, and he probably still has access. And then with the Mimblewimble thing, the guy, I think it's David Burkett, if I'm not mistaken about his name. If you can go back to
David
that one.
Burkett. Yep.
He's the
Grin plus guy.
Yeah. So they actually have one of the main big developers on Mimblewimble protocol working on it. So, I mean, regardless of it,
they're making progress.
There's something happening.
I will say, though, I don't think the Litecoin Foundation does have much money, because at least at the end of 2019, I read articles saying that they only had a year or two runway.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, and I know they were spending money on the MMA stuff. And I think some of the other things that like events that they were trying to sponsor. So I know that come out of the foundation as well. So I mean, yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, because I remember reading there was something that Litecoin was almost broke, and then if you look at Cointelegraph, there was another article that Charlie says it's not, and they have like 2 years of runway.
Right.
So I really don't know. I don't know. But what I do know is there was Charlie. He was quoted saying that they don't have nearly enough devs working on the blockchain, and there's they're kind of falling behind there. I remember him saying that, and so again, just like with Bitcoin. We don't need to keep pushing it forward and doing all this crazy stuff with it. It doesn't have to be everything for everyone. If Litecoin wants to be the test net for Bitcoin and they want to go and they want to do all kinds of stuff there to see if it'll work on Bitcoin, hey, whatever, who cares? I'm just not a fan of it, just simply for the fact, like I said, that it was a copy of Bitcoin, just changed a little bit so the mining community could mine it easier. Then you've got the founder of it basically just selling his stash the whole way up. To me, that's just, and look, I mean, as a business owner, you have to do what's right for your business, sometimes for yourself. But I think we all can agree as if this was your blockchain and you sold all your holdings, why, right? I mean, just because it's overvalued. I mean, if that's the case, I mean, that's great, right?
Right. Yeah. Rice. What was his Rice? What was his excuse for selling? I think it was something about he didn't want to have a conflict of interest or something. Or
yeah,
what
I mean,
he was saying? I can't remember.
He was trying to claim that, and this is, I mean, it's a double-edged sword. He was trying to claim that he had the potential power of increasing the price of and like just basically manipulating the price by his by the things he says. So by him not owning the asset, it took him out of that equation of being able to manipulate the price. But then again, he did sell pretty damn close to the high too, though. So yeah, so it's
but it could have been a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, right?
It could have been. I mean, it could have been. So I mean, that's just something that he has to deal with when it comes down to like his moral values and like what he's displaying to people. I mean, he did try to say that, a lot of people were trying to put a lot of pressure on him for manipulating the price. And he felt like by selling that it was getting that element taken away so that it wouldn't be coming up anymore. But, it's.
So to continue with that whole theme of, why you guys may like or dislike Litecoin, what would you say about other coins then? What would you say, Rice, about Bitcoin Cash, which is a copy of Bitcoin, just modified a little bit? And
I'm not a maximalist of any sort, man. I'm trying to stay open-minded to technology because, I'm 45 now. And since I've been alive, I've seen so much technology, like advancements. Like I had pagers. I've seen the old block cell phone. I've seen the cell phones that you had to carry around a bag, like with a battery and things. And like, so, I mean, I've seen so much advancement in how technology has gone that I can't seem to think that what we have right now is going to be our best answer for the future. I like to think that, that what we're doing and like some of the positiveness that I'm trying to think about, even though the world may not be at that place, that we're planting seeds for our future and that we all have like a role to play in planting those seeds. And hopefully, like there'll be some young kid, some male, female, maybe a group of kids who get together and learn about coding and end up, getting inspired by some of the code in the Bitcoin white paper, going on GitHub, looking at what Vitalik and some of the other developers did with Ethereum, and just taking all these ideas and improving upon it in the best of ways. So I'd like to think that what we're doing is inspiring people to further this movement, because I think there's a lot more work for us to do as far as cryptocurrencies and blockchain technologies as a whole.
So Beadles has taken the more entrepreneurial route in blockchain. Beadles, what do you see in the next few years as far as blockchain, the blockchain industry and where it's going, and where do you see some areas that there needs to be improvement?
So, I mean, this is kind of, it's kind of a big question, right? So, I think we're going to see cryptocurrencies, I would say 99% of them die. I would say that you're going to see a new form of cryptocurrency rise that's going to end up being regulated in some fashion, a lot more regulation than we have now, because it's become a direct competitor to dollars, to the US dollar, to other countries, currencies. I think you're going to see other countries come out with their own, as you're already seeing. You're going to see other countries come out with their own currencies, their own blockchains. And I think what you're going to see is a new class of cryptos that come out that are going to be, state controlled, government controlled, things like that. You're going to have, it's going to be more like stocks and bonds where you're going to have regulation on these different assets. I think you're going to see stable tokens and stable coins. I like them right now. I just think that those are going to be in direct competition with countries' dollars. So what you're going to end up seeing is these different countries with all their different currencies, they're going to be competing kind of like we have now. We're going to have all these different countries, cryptos out there, or digital currencies, as you saw from the CARES Act, as you see from China, that's already testing it with, Starbucks and McDonald's and all these guys. You're going to see all these different digital currencies come out. And you're going to see wallets that are going to integrate, and they're going to be able to hold these different types of cryptos, these different, just like a regular leather wallet. You could put yen, you could put dollars, you could put, whatever you want in there, right? It'll be the same thing. So I think you're just going to see what you see now, but then you're also going to see a digital dollar, just like the CARES Act. And it's going to be basically, the strongest of all of them. And I think the Chinese are going to be there first because they already are. They're already doing it. But blockchain itself, that's why people always say Bitcoin bad, blockchain good, right? I think they've seen the genius in blockchain. They're going to be using it for all different types of industry across the world, from your cars to
music industry,
corporate law, music industry, video, you name it. It's going to be used for everything. But just to go back to the bankers, this isn't direct competition with what they've had sole control over for millennia, right? So for people that just want to think that crypto is going to be around forever and it's going to be freely traded, those days are gone. I think we're looking towards, more like a really monitored, asset class, kind of like, the New York Stock Exchange. I think that's the direction we're heading. And I know that a lot of people think that that's crazy, but
no, that's true. But doesn't that marginalize Bitcoin though? Like, doesn't that kind of put it off into a corner and the sexiness kind of goes away, right?
Aren't you glad it doesn't have a face? So Satoshi again, was light years ahead of everybody else. So because if there's no face, I know they can figure out, who the biggest miners are, and they could go tweak stuff and do things. But that's why it's great that it doesn't have a face, right? So Bitcoin could still be used as intended from the very beginning to the end of time. It can always be used, which is great. I always call it a plan B currency. It's not something you want to use for coffee, but it's definitely something you want to use, man. If the whole power structure is coming down on your head and you're having to use, this these digital dollars or whatever they're going to, force on us, it's always nice to have a plan B in case something goes wrong with plan A. But again, this is, very controversial. A lot of people don't like the idea of this and then just dismiss me as crazy. But all you have to do is just look at history. Look at how crypto started. Look where we're at now. And look how much regulations already come out, right? So you can see what's happened to our market cap. It's not because these cryptos became less valuable. It's just more regulation came in and just kind of took the fun out of it, right?
So the regulation adds more costs, right? And then at a certain point, it's going to cost as much to move. I'm being hyperbolic here, but it's going to cost as much to move crypto around because of all the regulation than it is to just use the digital dollar that they're going to create.
And people will be able to use these digital dollars just like they do an ATM card, right? So it's going to be, easier for them to do that than try to have to understand how cryptocurrency works. Because face it, most people, they don't understand blockchain, they don't understand cryptocurrency, and creating all these different types of platforms that that I personally create, me and Snay and my team. It has to move towards something that's much easier for people to understand, and that's what we're always doing at Monarch, is trying to dumb it down and actually get it ready for, we'll use stable coins and stable tokens, and then when digital dollars come out, guess what? We'll still be using digital dollars as well as stable coins and stable tokens till we can't, and it'll all be done decentralized through blockchain, so that way, it stays pure, it's still power for the people, and we'll just use whatever currency that we're being forced to use.
Yeah, right. So what are your last thoughts here for today?
Well, that's a lot of heavy stuff, man. And we talked about, I would like to think that, Beadles is wrong.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Mhm.
You know, but
History, man.
yeah, no, and that's kind of what I've been saying about like what's been going on with some of the movements we're talking about, some of the people that we're talking about being arrested, and this cabal deep state. There's too many powerful people from history, too much money and power and control involved, I think, for these people just to let go. It would really take an uprising of people and like a complete evolution of us as a species to go to that point where it's like we got free energy, we don't need money, we're working towards the betterment of society and our planet. It's going to be a while before we get to that point. But
I was gonna say I see that happening. I do see that, but we may be 6 feet under by then, bro.
yeah, I mean,
that's like 200 years off.
But see, I'm just trying to look at things long term in the future that I would like to see for my grandchildren and children to come. And that's really like, I don't really feel like there's much I can do personally to change the situations of how the powers that be are, but I can make a positive impact on spreading a message for the future so that other people can continue this, because I think that the more of us that can be the change that we want to see, and like have good dialogue like we're having here, where we can disagree but still have a great conversation. If we can get to that point where we're starting to treat people how we want to be treated, I just want to plant seeds of that positiveness, because I see that disruptiveness that Bitcoin and blockchain and cryptocurrencies cause, and I'd like for it to disrupt our humanity and bring us to a positive point.
Yeah, the golden rule, baby. You know, treat others how you want to be treated, right? So a lot of great stuff there, man. And you're already, you know, like Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world, right? So kind of like what you were saying right there, and what you're doing is that very thing, man. You're spreading your ideas and your concepts and your notions and your feelings out there with the world, and making yourself, you know, known, exposed, and vulnerable, and all that stuff. And it's great. And I think you can already see that there is more and more people waking up. You're seeing it every day, especially during lockdown. They have a lot more time on their hands to start kind of looking underneath these rocks and saying, what's underneath there, right? So we definitely are well more awake than we as a whole than we ever were in history. And all you have to do is, you know, just look at YouTube, right? Just look at any of the alternative news media out there that's not the mainstream crap, and you'll see that people are waking up. We are heading towards a better place. And hopefully, you know, this lockdown will end soon and we can get back to business and learn from this. And we don't. So
as you guys see in Beadles' background, Monarch token, monarchwallet.com. Tell us about that really quickly before we dip out of here, Beadles.
So Monarch is just that, right? It allows you and you alone to be the monarch of your funds. It's decentralized. We don't hold your seed, your keys, and that kind of stuff. We created the world's best wallet that does all kinds of cool stuff. I won't list out all the features right now, but just know that you and only you are the monarch of your funds. You control the seed, the keys, all that kind of stuff. And then we created Monarch Pay, which is for merchants, that allows for decentralized blockchain reoccurring payments. So people that you know, like Patreon, people like Twitch, all that kind of stuff, they don't want to deal with PayPal. They don't want to deal with, you know, credit cards. They don't want to deal with chargebacks. They don't want to deal with high fees. They don't want to deal with somebody closing their account, clawing back money, any of that kind of stuff. It's completely your money. It's completely decentralized. We don't touch any of it. It allows merchants to start accepting stable coins and stable tokens. And a new release of it is coming out probably within the next 2 weeks that is going to be as simple to use as PayPal, but it's all crypto based and it's all decentralized. And again, only you are the monarch of your funds. So that's, you know, a couple of things that we work on. And I've got a lot of different businesses. I've created some of the largest service companies in California. And anyways, I have a good idea about how economies work, how economics work, and as much as I love, you know, you guys and the idea of, you know, crypto going back to the way it was in 2010, 2011, 2014, I think, man, we're coming down hard, dude. Regulations are coming, state sponsored.
No, I agree with you, man. I think you're a realist, and you know, sometimes people don't want to. Yeah, some people don't like to hear that though, Beadles. They don't like to hear it.
I enjoyed the conversation, and I appreciate your, you know, all the perspectives and points that were made, and you know, I think that everybody's made some valid points, some great things.
Yeah. So, you know, Rice, tell us where they can find you as well. I know you're on Twitter, of course.
Yep.
Where else can they?
You can find me on YouTube. I'm a content creator. You can find me on Library. I pretty much mirror my YouTube channel, but I am posting exclusive content on Library to encourage people to support those decentralized platforms. I'm a content creator and a journalist. I do all types of stuff. So if you're not familiar with me, I definitely encourage you to explore my channel and my social medias at Rice Crypto pretty much everywhere.
Yeah, so you've been doing a lot of epic interviews lately. Who you got coming up next? If you want to share with the audience.
Nobody actually. I don't have anybody scheduled at this point. You
blew your wad, man. You had some
no,
major hitters there.
I have a lot of stuff set up. I just didn't want to be like, I didn't want to keep, like I needed to put some solo content out because I don't want all my stuff to be just me doing interviews. I do enjoy doing the interviews, but I like being able to mix up my content. I do have some people coming on, so I mean, but it's like
not anything like right now, in the near
right. But I mean, I do have some good people that I've been talking to as far as getting, like, I need to get David Chom scheduled. I'm looking at talking to Ron Paul about getting a date. G. Edward Griffin. So I mean, those cats should be up, sometime this month. I've been very fortunate, but I'm not trying to like set it up where every week I have some big person and that's what everybody's expecting.
You don't want to back yourself into that corner.
No, I don't want to be that person. So I want to try to be able to diversify my content.
People should be coming to your channel for you first, then your guests. Yep, I agree. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's another kick in the session. That was a great conversation. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And also go check out these guys. I'll leave a link in the description for them as well. Crypto Beadles, Rice Crypto, Crypto Blood. We out of here. BC Boys. Thanks for that song, because Rice. We out of here. Holla.
God bless.